Thank you very much, Richard, and I am delighted to be here in these new headquarters. I have been often to, I guess, the mothership in New York City, but it's good to have an outpost of the Council right here down the street from the State Department. We get a lot of advice from the Council, so this will mean I won't have as far to go to be told what we should be doing and how we should think about the future. The same forces that compound our problems, economic interdependence, open borders, and the speedy movement of information, capital, goods, services, and people, are also part of the solution. And with more states facing common challenges, we have the chance and a profound responsibility to exercise American leadership to solve problems in concert with others. That is the heart of America's mission in the world today. Now, some see the rise of other nations and our economic troubles here at home as signs that American power has waned. Others simply don't trust us to lead. They view America as an unaccountable power, too quick to impose its will at the expense of their interests and our principles. But they are wrong. The question is not whether our nation can or should lead, but how it will lead in the 21st century. Rigid ideologies and old formulas don't apply. We need a new mindset about how America will use its power to safeguard our nation, expand shared prosperity, and help more people in more places live up to their God-given potential.
Here's how Agenda 21 is defined by the United Nations. A comprehensive plan of action to be taken globally, nationally, and locally by organizations of the United Nations system, governments, and major groups in every area in which humans impact the environment. Wow, that's kind of broad. Social and economic dimensions, which talks about the redistribution of wealth, changing consumption patterns, promoting health, I love this one, change population, and sustainable settlement. When it talks about the redistribution of wealth, which we all love, quote, developed countries and funding agencies should provide specific assistance to developing countries in adopting an enabling approach to the provision of shelter for all. So that's like guaranteed housing. Well, that's going to be great because the government's going to own all of our houses anyway because we're all going broke because of this. Reading through the pages, it becomes clear sustainable development is just a really nice way of saying centralized control over all of human life on planet Earth.
For days, the land around the Bundy ranches seemed somewhat like a police state to people in this community.
Throwing women to the ground, tasing them, sicking canine dogs on them.
That's caught the attention of private militia across the country who feel First Amendment rights are being violated.
That's what we do. We provide armed response.
Jim Lordy came from Montana to join the protesters, and he says he's not afraid to shoot if necessary.
Why the gun? Well, they have guns. We need guns to protect ourselves from a tyrannical government.
And he says other militia members are joining him.
There's many more coming.
There you go, honey. But for this small community, violence isn't a part of the conversation.
These people that are coming in could totally disrupt everything.
Restaurant owner Judy Metz says adding guns and militiamen could lead to lives lost.
That absolutely frightens me.
Somebody does something or says something and these guys pull a gun, that's going to be all, that's going to be it.
For now, things remain peaceful, but these protesters stand ready, expecting things could turn ugly at any moment.
What would you tell them to do?
Well, I'd tell the governor, I'd say, hey, you back up Nevada law and you take care of your brand inspector, the Department of Agriculture. They're supposed to be protecting my property, not destroying them, not signing my name on the bottom of brand certificates.
And you have recovered a couple more head of cattle today, haven't you? Some people from out of state came in and got some back for you, didn't they?
Yes, we got cowboys here on the ranch, and they're ranching. They're putting cattle in here. We're working them, branding them, and doing what we normally do. We'll wean some cattle and probably sell some cattle. And then we're going to continue to have a ranch operation going on, and the rest of you can join in and enjoy it.
And I think that's one of the key things, isn't it, is that you're concerned that the sheriff as well as the governor, are not doing what they could do to de-escalate this and to really do their jobs to enforce the law. They have the law enforcement authority here, not the BLM. I've never seen the BLM even on any ballots to see if I agree with any of their policies.
You know, the Constitution is a supreme law of the land. If you read the Constitution, it don't say anything about the United States Army being here dealing with my private property or your citizen rights and access to your public lands. If I was the governor of the United States, or not the governor of the state of Nevada, I'd tell these people, get out of my state. Get your army out of my state. You have no jurisdiction or authority here.
We have a bankrupt federal government run by foreign banks that want people off the public land. The federal government's got more than half the land in this country, upwards of 80% of the land out west, 90% of Nevada, and they don't want people using the open range that predates fences coming in the 1870s and 1880s. In Mexico, in all the national parks, I've been to a couple big ones that have big rolling hills and grass and desert. There's sheep and cows, folks, and the people aren't paying to be on it because they've always been there, and they have the grazing rights to it. It's the same thing. All over the world, the globalists, the UN, under Agenda 21, is forcing rural populations off land. And if you own the land, they're going to come take it from you with regulations and taxes out there.
Thank you, Alex. We're here at the protest area, and I've got Emmett Bundy standing right next to me. You know, you were talking about people being tasered last night, and there was some real brutal things that happened there, but I want to let him tell you why they were there. As you mentioned before, this is about rights. If they can take their grazing rights, if they can take their water rights, they can take your rights, your property rights at your home. So if you're not a rancher, you don't know any ranchers because they're going out of business left and right. And this is a small family business that's been here for over about 140 years. And let me let you hear from Ammon what happened last night. He was one of the people that got tasered last night. Ammon, tell us what happened last night.
Well, just to set the area, they've got this land, around 600,000 acres, completely locked down. If you step off the road, they arrest you. And they don't just be nice about it. They knock you on the ground, rub your face in the ground, handcuff you, and take you off. That's how they're doing it. So they literally, by force, have closed this land off and have occupied it. And one more thing to set the setting here. If almost every wash and every canyon, if you will, here, and every road has either an agent on it or has a camera in it to make sure that people are obedient to what they say. And anyway, and I'm not exaggerating that one bit.
That's just
okay. So yesterday we've already had citizens run to the ground and arrested. So the other day, and I'll just tell you two incidences. The other day we had a citizen, a 16-year-old boy that pulled off here where he's been his whole life, went down to the river here, and we saw about 5 or 6 of their agents or vehicles go down there. And so we rushed over there to protect him because of what happened before. And they were on their way to doing the exact same thing to him. And we had to, basically push them off this 16-year-old boy to get him to and protect him. And we did back him down. There was about 40 of us. Then yesterday, where most of the activity that got a lot of news here, the way it started is they came down off this mountain and there was 14 units. And one of them was a dump truck with a backhoe on a trailer behind it. And the other 13 units were protection units, heavily armed for this dump truck and this backhoe. And we saw them come off this hill, so we took the opportunity to protest them. But we also felt that it was crucial that we understood what in the world was in the back of that dump truck. Mm-hmm. They've been chasing these cattle all over this country, and it's been a hot year so far. It was over 90 degrees already. And these cattle can't run very long before they overheat, and it'll kill them. Also, we know that they've been separating these mothers from their calves. This is calving season for us right now. So they're separating these young calves from their mothers. And we are seeing cattle that have tight bags, meaning where are their calves? Their calves are separated, lying under a bush, getting ready to die or dying.
Mainstream media is saying, Bundy claims he crazily owns this land that's federal. Isn't he nuts? knowing people who aren't ranchers don't know about this, don't know that 80-something% of the West is federal, don't know 90% of Nevada is federal, don't know they just power grabbed it and said, well, we administer it now, but you can still have your grazing rights.
Afraid that they're dying, so they wanted to see what was inside this truck, and that was a group of demonstrators. Let me show you first his where he was tasered, right here on his neck, and you were also tasered elsewhere, right?
I was tasered on my arm, and then they hit my chest and my stomach. And you tore it out? Yeah, either I tore it out or some other people that were with me tore them out. As they were shooting them, they tear them out. Well, tell us what led up to this, and we want to talk about, because this is a real key thing. This is the key point about this is about their water rights, and that was what this ultimately turned out to be about. But tell us about the incident leading up to that. All right, so they're coming down. There was 14 units. They were protecting this backhoe and this dump truck. And we stopped the convoy in the intent to see what was in the back of that dump truck. And they immediately came out armed, and 13 units with 2 men and dogs each, at least 2 men and dogs, fully armed, came out and began to resist us from being able to see what was in the back of that truck. And it got quite heated. It was, pretty much just verbal for a while. And then one of the Rangers came up behind a 59-year-old woman and body slammed her. And after that, it literally exploded into, escalated tremendously. Slammed her into the ground. Yeah, from behind. You watch the video. It's from behind. Yeah. And then there was a continued confrontation forward, and then they started to tase me. What did you learn when you looked in the truck? Well, we thought that possibly going to be a rendering truck. They're going to have animals in there, but we did not find that. What we found was that they're destroying all the water pipes and all the water tanks that are throughout this land that have been here over 100 years.
Destroying the infrastructure.
Right. Sorry, Alex?
They're destroying the infrastructure just like Stalin did in Poland and Ukraine. This is classic war against our infrastructure. NAFTA, GATT, all of it is to shut us down. It was reported yesterday by the LA Times, ranchers are shutting down nationwide. Beef prices are the highest ever recorded. Almost all the ranchers I know have been shut down, even though beef prices are the highest ever because of Big Agra having a bottleneck on the production of the meat packing.
Those water rights, yes, I want Ammon to talk a little bit about those water rights, because those water rights are very much like your property rights. You register your property rights at the county, state level. It's not at the federal level. And they can come in, if we're going to allow this to happen to these ranchers, they're going to do that to us individually. Talk a little bit about the water rights and what they try to do there, because they are destroying infrastructure, not only for you, but for the wildlife that's out here, right?
That's correct. So those water rights were either purchased or inherited from, and originally came from homesteading, okay? And they're throughout this land here, and we have done improvements over the last 100 years and piped those lines down all through this country with tanks and pipes, and the wildlife and the cattle have used that water for 100 plus years. They're tearing those out now. The reason they're doing that is because that is the one thing that ties those rights to this land. See, the grazing rights are also tied to the water. Mm-hmm. Okay, so if we have any legal right besides just state taking over its sovereignty, which obviously we want to happen, but it's tied to those waters. And they know that. And that's why when they're tearing these out and they're coming down, that's why one dump truck and a backhoe has 13 armed vehicles on it, because they did not want us to see what was in the back of that, because they are destroying those waters. Now
they know where the critical points are to take our rights, to take our property.
Absolutely, must be. Why in the world would they have 13 armed vehicles, over 30 men with military rifles and dogs to protect one backhoe and a dump truck?